All right, well, let's find out who is going to take down the pod. It's time for round number 3. I'm going to send it on over to Riley and Monty with the call.
Thank you very much, Maria. And first thing, Monty, of course, point of order. We had the so-called Fro Bros entering the booth for the first time in round number 2. So I feel like you and I also need a casting pair name.
Okay.
And I want to pitch to you Riley.
Perfect.
So it's the first syllable of my name, the last syllable of yours?
Yeah.
Riley.
Riley.
Works perfectly really well. All right, excellent. We're in. My friends, we're going to get stuck into round number 3 here. A little bit of a surprise, as we've already talked about, Marty, the fact that we have 2 Dimir decks.
Yeah.
Black sort of touted as, you know, I'm not going to say the worst colour, the furthest from first in terms of overall desirability.
Yeah.
But it supported 2 drafters here to 2-0 start to this draft. Our 3-0 undefeated drafter in the feature pod is going to be playing blue-black. This isn't something that was on our bingo card.
It wasn't, but maybe it should have been. It clearly does seem to be something that at least one team, Team Sanctum of All, has sort of figured out. They said they thought black was the best color. They had this blue-black sort of deck high on their priority list. They have Tom White on that team here at 2-0. In a different pod, in our feature pods, Nicole Tipple at 2-0 with blue-black. In another pod, Matt Secking-Johnson, also on Team Sanctum of All, at 2-0. I don't know if he drafted blue-black, but they're doing something right over there.
They know something we don't for sure. And I'm interested to see which 2 of these players is going to be able to take out the 3-0. You pointed out, so both players very, very heavy on the 5 drops.
Yes.
But it's Carlos Oliveros with 3 copies of a Depth Defiler, which is pretty good, especially when you cast it as a 6 drop.
Yeah. It's both players have a lot of powerful cards, but when I look at the decks card for card, and you see Sorin, Shogungar, and Nethergoyf on one side, alongside some Petrifying Meddlers, and on the other side, I'm seeing Shadow of the Second Sun, and Null Drifter, and 3 Depth Defilers, and the Drake. It does feel a little bit to me like Carlos is just card for card outpacing Tom's deck.
Well, here is the Nethergoyf you just mentioned. It is a 2-3 at this stage. So people will, of course, recognize this sort of templating from the card Tarmogoyf, which...
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Well,
no.
Yeah, you obviously haven't played Modern for the last, what? When was Tarmogoyf good last time? Like 5 years ago?
Before my time.
Before your time. Oh, dear. So gather round, children, and Grandpa Riley will tell you of a card, Tarmogoyf, and now it's half the cost, and also half the graveyards, admittedly, involved in beefing it up. But it's getting in for a tidy sum here, as we see Tom get into the red zone with his Marionette Apprentice and the Nethergoyf as well. Carlos had a bit of a slower start, although he does have the Wither and Bloom. Now, is this gonna... Oh, dude, this is the thing, right? Where if you try to bolt a Goyf, it stays alive. If he casts the Wither and Bloom... Oh, no, it doesn't count his graveyard.
Yeah, and that's not a problem with the Nethergoyf, only with that card that I've never heard of.
Unless you're bolting your own Goyf, which isn't happening too often, I would imagine, at the highest level of Magic the Gathering. Choosing not to cast that Wither and Bloom that was in hand there.
Yeah, I think one thing that is in Tom's deck is 2 copies of Ether Spike. So that is something that Carlos is certainly aware of, just worrying about playing into that Ether Spike and allowing this to go through with his Precious Removal spell. I think a big feature of Carlos's deck, at least relative to the matchup, is it's a slower one. So it is something that he has to be aware of and careful of, is how he manages these instant speed cheaper resources in different positions.
So utter insignificance was the discard there to the refurbished Familiar, and that's going to buff the Necrogoyf to a 3-4.
The Soul Trader coming down is pretty scary here from Tom, considering he does also have the Marionette Apprentice out. Suddenly, Carlos is looking at the potential of not only Tom unlocking those 5 drops, those Petrifying Meddlers, start tapping things down and getting more aggressive, which in the face of 1 creature looks pretty good, but also he can essentially fireball at will depending on how many creatures he wants to sack. So the clock is ramping up.
Classic combo of a Blood Artist effect, as we call them, and a Sacrifice Outlet is Yeah, it's a lethal combo. But here's Depth Defiler to take the pressure off a little bit here. And it looks like Tom has missed some land drops as well. So Carlos is sort of gearing up for the late game here. He's got a big body on the board. He's bounced some of the key plays that his opponent has made, the Soul Trader back in hand. And so regaining some of the tempo in this match.
Yeah, because the Soul Trader can help Tom turn these creatures into other resources, in this case mana, but it does come at a cost when you preemptively sack the creature. You are giving up the potential aggressive value that that creature might offer.
All right, we're going to see a pretty basic trading off of resources here as the Depth Defiler falls victim to an Amphibian Downpour.
I believe the Nether Goyf does not grow.
No, already an enchantment with
Yes.
the Utter Insignificance. Yeah,
Right.
yep.
So 4 damage taken plus the 1 from the Apprentice, putting Carlos down to 10. That Copy Crook drawn means that Carlos is able to go Copy Crook plus Wither and Bloom this turn still, which is pretty nice.
Because the Wither
question-
sorry, go ahead.
The question I have is whether Carlos's Copy Crook is going to be interested in costing Tom another card, or maybe copying one of Tom's creatures here.
All right, there's the 4th land. Or the 6th land, I should say.
Yes.
4th land for the Copy Crook, assuming you want to keep 2 up for the Wither and Bloom.
Exactly. I see 3 card types in Carlos's graveyard, so he could make a 3/4 Nether Goyf of his own.
Chooses Marionette Apprentice instead, and will be given the opportunity to make a 1/1, which he will take.
Okay, that is cool because the Marionette Apprentice for Carlos means that the 1/1 is able to chump the Nether Goyf as it is represented, and then potentially Wither and Bloom it. So that would be a kill on the Nether Goyf. But also the 1/2 Apprentice of his own now blocks Tom's Apprentice. So that's balanced out. So this does do a great job of really balancing the board out in a decently meaningful way while Tom is still trying to build upon his board state and his mana.
Yeah, and we just see the Soul Trader come back down. This is sort of this was a very strong play last time it came down, but now it's almost there's a whiff of, I'm not going to say desperation, but it's like I really need this card to stick around just to keep myself relevant in this game. Here's the play that you lined up for us before, Marnie. Now the Goyf facing off against the Servo and -3/-3.
Well, that's the thing is actually Carlos went for the Eviscerator's Insight to sack the token because I think
Oh, excuse me, he did too.
he's going to go for -3/-3 on the Soul Trader now. That card is representing mana for Tom in a position where he is mana screwed. So
Right.
I feel like Carlos is going to put a real emphasis on getting rid of this Soul Trader off the board.
That makes a lot of sense now that, yeah, we see the Eviscerator's Insight, drawing a couple of extra cards, turning that Servo into some material in hand, and perhaps identifying the bottleneck on mana as being the key way for him to disrupt Tom's game plan moving forward. As a quick read of this card, we can remind ourselves of what it does. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. Very simple, basic set of abilities, but very, very, very powerful. I can imagine this card is going to be enormous in Commander moving forward, of course.
And seeing play in at least one constructed deck this weekend.
Is it
I
really?
can spoil for you.
Is it really?
Yeah, we're gonna.
We didn't talk about that.
We're
You're keeping secrets, money.
well, literally one copy.
Oh.
Not.
Oh,
just
not even
one,
not even
not one
not
archetype.
even
one
not even a
deck,
play-
one
not even a play set.
person.
Right.
No, 4 copies,
Oh,
but
4 copies.
one deck.
One deck. All right.
Okay, but the thing is here, right now, the most important thing is it says another creature. So when Carlos goes aggressively for this Wither and Bloom, Tom has to decide how badly he wants to get out of this mana stump. Does he sack an Apprentice? No.
Turns out very, very, not very. As the
Yeah.
Wither and Bloom takes out the Warren Soul Trader, a clean 1-for-1 there, and of course it can't sacrifice itself to create a treasure, which I'm sure Tom would have wanted to do, just so he can cast his cards. 4 cards in hand. Carlos with 3 has cast an Eviscerator's Insight off of a Servo, though, so he's doing pretty well for himself in terms of card economy.
Yeah, and he has that volatile Stormdrake, and I think that's the real question spot right now is, do you want to use the Stormdrake to potentially take one of your opponent's creatures?
Conniving off of the copy crook, which will remind you is copying a marionette apprentice. And has found a sneaky snacker. That's not a bad one to discard to connive.
It's not a bad one, especially with that copy of Eviscerator's Insight in your graveyard. It is nearly trivial to get it back. The only issue I have with discarding it here is I think there was a chance Carlos may have been looking at the Stormdrake as a play this turn.
Yeah.
And then he would want to play the snacker as a way to trade with it.
Right.
But instead opting to say, I don't need to play the Stormdrake and give you another card that is ultimately pretty much an equal, maybe even greater threat with the flying to the creatures that I'm taking from you. So now I can just go Snacker plus Marauder and continue adding to the board rather than playing a card that is ultimately neutral by swapping positions.
Yeah, swapping two different threats, one for the other. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. This is a better line, I think, here for Carlos.
I really like how Carlos is playing this game right now.
Oh, he's zagging on us again. It's the Marauder first now.
I think he wants to keep that Snacker in play.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, this is why he's 2-0 at the draft table.
Carlos is making some really nice moves, understanding of his position that, yes, I may be at 9, but you're at 10 now, and I have 2 flyers, plus an apprentice that will drain you when these die. Did Tom draw a swamp? Because a swamp enables corruption in his hand, and that would be quite big because it is not only removal, it's life gain.
He did. He found a swamp.
Okay,
all right. That's
step 1.
That's going to open things up a little bit here.
That is massively step 1.
Free flyer?
All right. We're seeing...
board shutdown, essentially.
Yeah, with the Corrupted Shapeshifter. This is not a card that has seen a lot of play. This is not a card that that has excited many people. But look, here and now, it's doing the job.
It is finely statted for every mode, right? You know, 20 years ago, this card would be understatted for every mode.
Yep.
But now you're getting a 3/3 flyer for 4. That is fine stats, right? That is on rate, more or less, for commons. So it is finely statted for every mode. It's just also this is a very high-powered format, so fine isn't always good enough, which is why the card sort of gets fallen by the wayside quite often.
Yeah, it's going up against cards that are just of a much higher quality, generally speaking, in a pack, in your average pack here, yeah. All right, foreboding landscape in hand here for Carlos. He doesn't have a whole lot going on. On the other side of the battlefield, however, we do see Tom White with a hand that he is hoping to deploy sooner rather than later. The Petrifying Meddler is going to be useful, consuming corruption, another potentially stabilizing play for him. But having fallen short on lands in the last couple of turns, it's been a bit of a struggle. All right, what's on the agenda here for Carlos?
Oh, I love this.
Exile the Wither and Bloom from the graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on the Refurbished Familiar, and the Sneaky Snacker's also getting in here as well.
Yeah, I think he's planning on firing off that Insight. So he's saying, you can block this if you want, but I'm getting 3 damage through, and I'm going to eviscerate yours. Insight the Snacker, that'll draw me my 3rd card for the turn and bring the Sneaky Snacker right back into play, and ultimately this attack is more or less free, just pushing that damage through.
All right, so the Insight, right, now this is a very tricky little interaction here. The Insight puts the Snacker in the graveyard, which sees you draw the 3rd card and then comes back immediately. Now, it's not attacking. You might look at that and think, oh, it comes back attacking like it was attacking before. No, it's just tapped.
Yeah.
But that's 3 free damage that has been snuck through, and 2 more cards with the Eviscerated Insight. Tom knew this line was happening. It's not like anything was hidden here.
No.
But still a really, really nice little sequence there for Carlos.
Well, it's really good for Tom, because now that the Insight is gone, this Consuming Corruption is free to go. So this removal spell deals with either flyer on the board right now, and it gains some life back for Tom. So that is very big. It's even at X equals 2, because that is only the number of swamps that Tom has access to, it is still a massive swing when a game is this close. But now with Tom drawing the 5th land, he could just drop Petrifying Meddler because it's a reach creature. It taps down the only blocker. He gets in for 6. That creature is stunned, and Carlos has 2 attackers in the face of a 4/5 reach.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good position for Tom there.
Pretty swingy play, potentially, here.
The question is, how much does he want to risk it? We know Carlos has an utter insignificance in hand, and that would get rid of the reach, but still 1 point of damage short.
All right, in they come. It's an attack for 6, and Carlos is hit down to 3. And the Petrifying Meddler is going to keep the Refurbished Familiar tapped down rather than the Marionette Apprentice. Was able to get that damage through without having to tap down the blocker there.
There we go. Game as close as it gets, essentially. Deep analysis of the draw for Carlos.
Okay, so that could provide some more fresh cards, in addition to bringing back the Sneaky Snacker if you just want to throw it into the Meddler, although there's not a huge amount, there's not a real reason to do that.
I mean, it's a point of damage from the Apprentice.
From the Apprentice,
but you're tapping a blocker, which is, right now, Carlos is on the back foot.
Yeah, especially as the Sneaky Snacker comes back tapped, so
Exactly.
it's not like you can bring that back and block with
Can
that.
you imagine if it came back untapped?
If it came back untapped, yeah.
Boy, what a
well, that
card.
was the thing with Arclight Phoenix, right? That's what made it so good. A lot of people, I think, sort of overlooked that part of the card. Arclight Phoenix, an old card from one of the old Ravnica sets, and it was a card that was so much better than many of these other comes back from the graveyard taps. You know, your Bloodghasts, your Transmigrants. In this format, a lot of them that can come back at instant speed can't block.
Right.
But not that you were doing a lot of blocking with Arclight Phoenix, but it was still an interesting dimension to that
The
card
option was
that you don't often see.
Right. Really tight spot here for Carlos. All 3 of the attackers from Tom are lethal, which is a big problem as you see it.
Does have the utter insignificance to stem the bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, that would shut down one of them. But we know Tom has 2 removal spells in hand.
So thinking about casting the Deep Analysis, I think, here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just get some more information, see what you want to do.
Yeah, and that definitely was you do need to make a play.
Wither and Bloom, I think one of the draws there, Money.
So that's 2 removal spells.
Okay, and I think it's Attune the Narrative, the other card. Didn't get a great look at it. Yes, it is. There you go.
Yeah. So, I don't think Carlos has a good attack. I would love for him to have a good attack. There's ways that this would have been lethal, but I don't think he has a good attack.
All right.
Okay.
Back to Tom now. Taps the double swamp, and we're going to see Consuming Corruption.
Ether Spike is a draw for Tom.
Oh. Yeah, and
I think that does it.
Carlos is... He's got 5 untapped lands. You'd think, oh, maybe this is going to be enough here, but no, the Consuming Corruption resolves.
Yeah, the thing is, Carlos was counting on both of the cards he had available to him to have him live through this turn.
Yes.
Because he could block the Nethergoyf, for example, Wither and Bloom, the 3/3, and then go for the utter insignificance on the Meddler, or vice versa, however you want to do it between the two, which one you value more here. But unfortunately, we know that this will be fine, and then Tom will say, okay, when you cast your next spell, Ether Spike it, and Carlos only has 1 mana to pay, and Tom gets 2 energy.
So this is a counter unless you pay 2, which Carlos is unable to do, meaning that the Nethergoyf will come through for lethal. Neatly done by Tom White, that Ether Spike off the top, saving
Great draw.
him there and enabling him to push lethal through. But look, full credit to Carlos, who managed to keep himself in that game for quite a while against some early aggression, but leveraged his the fact that he was drawing lands in a more timely fashion than Tom. But at the end of the day, as we expected it to be, a grindy, sort of attrition-based match between these players trading off resources.
Yeah, exactly. It's what we expected from the blue-black deck, but how the game started was one blue-black deck having the slower side of his draws, and one blue-black deck having an incredibly aggressive draw, and somehow we still found ourselves reaching that median point where everything balanced out, and we had this long, grindy game that ultimately became incredibly close just by the tightest of margins.
All right, we're opening things up here with a retrofitted transmogrant for Carlos. There's always one, the creative team, right? I think that they just have a card, every time they deal with a card for like, okay, which is the one that is going to be impossible for the casting team to say?
The transmogrant.
This time it's the retrofitted transmogrant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I will say, just really a nod to how close that previous game was. I believe that transmogrant was in Carlos's graveyard the entire game. And there wasn't a single turn where he was able to bring it back because every turn, all of his mana or close to it was accounted for.
Soren goes down to the Accursed Marauder. But here it is. The transmogrant has been retrofitted and is brought back. And now, Tom's under a lot of pressure here. And taking a lot of damage and is doing a whole lot of nothing, just playing lands and saying go. Ether Spike, 2 lands and 2 5-drops in hand here for him. So he'll be hoping to be able to hit something with the Ether Spike, but no. It's just a sneaky snacker, 2 lands up.
This is the issue with having this many 5-drops in your deck is sometimes, regardless of the numbers, the draws are going to get awkward.
So, Petrifying Meddler can come down and again trying to stabilize this board. A stun counter is going to be useful, but Carlos in hand has got the Depth Defiler and is going to be able to kick it. So, I don't think this is too much of a handbrake here for the Spaniard. He's going to be able to continue to assail and assault his opponent here. Tom White on the back foot.
Yeah, the Depth Defiler could have come down, but this is what I was going to say is...
Shadow of the Second Sun.
Carlos just found a window in the blue-black, essentially, control matchup to resolve Shadow of the Second Sun, and now things are out of hand. This card is absolutely backbreaking at any given point, but when you have this sort of control matchup, this is not how it works, though.
So I was already full tap, no? I don't understand. So you want... So
Okay, so let's talk about Shadow of the Second Sun.
Let's talk about Shadow of the Second Sun.
While the players sort it out. It is not the most intuitively worded card. So what happens is you cast Shadow of the Second Sun pre-combat, as you have to do. After your combat phase, a trigger goes on the stack that says, after this pre-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase, right? So when you go to that beginning phase, you have passed your post-combat main phase. So if you have mana, you can use it, you can cast things, but when the beginning phase begins, your untap, your upkeep, your draw, you no longer have any sorcery speed priority. You are going from a beginning phase where players cannot cast sorceries into the end phase where players cannot cast sorceries.
So it's like, it's the best way to think about it, it's like Wilderness Reclamation, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It is very close to Wilderness Reclamation, where rather than the untap happening in your end step, it's happening just before your end step in a beginning phase.
But with Wilderness Reclamation, it untapped your lands and you couldn't then cast a sorcery or a creature
Same
that didn't have flash. It's the same sort of thing,
Yes.
except this time obviously you get the extra card because you draw and you get any at the beginning of your upkeep effects. But that's, I think, the rule of thumb that we can use to think about it there.
Yeah, the biggest important thing is, even though the trigger happens at the beginning of the post-combat main phase, the beginning phase doesn't happen until the end of it. Which
Perfectly intuitive.
Very intuitive.
Very, very intuitive.
Absolutely not confusing.
No.
Definitely not a mind-breaking card. Totally normal.
Yeah, exactly. But quite seriously, I do like seeing weird cards like this.
Oh, I love it.
It's very cool.
Yes.
It's very, very cool. And this is the format for it, right? Modern Horizons 3, a lot of the traditional rules of set design break down as they just dial up the complexity. There's lots of in-jokes, there's lots of callbacks. This is the Magic fan set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like the type of card that would almost be an uncard in a past era.
Yeah.
But the way the design is, this is a serious Magic card, and it feels like a very serious Magic card.
Very, very serious.
Yeah, we are serious
We're
people.
very serious people.
The game is a serious game, and that is a serious Magic card.
Serious Magic card, yes, indeed. All right, Consuming Corruption here on the Accursed Marauder. Tom is able to buffer his life total a little bit. This is another callback, this card. There's a great many of these cards.
They sure are. This one specifically is
just
corrupt
and
tendrils of, I believe, corruption.
Are we just corrupting things all over the place here?
There are more corruption happening.
Yeah.
Tendrils of
Tendrils of
Corruption
Corruption.
is essentially the exact same card, just 4 mana instead of 2, and doesn't hit Planeswalkers because that was a different era.
So now
And
I can play my things, and later at
corrupt
the
6
end,
mana?
I get them
6
done.
mana,
Upstairs, baby.
goes to the face.
You go straight to the
Oh,
face
yeah.
with that corruption. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, Carlos taking multiple beginning phases every turn.
Yeah. And we see, again, the best friend, Sneaky Snacker.
That combo is just,
And-
it feels so nice.
Yeah. Well, it depends on which side of the table you're on, but yes,
Oh,
that's
man.
true.
All right, and now Carlos is rolling because there's the Kami. You activate it for free this turn. But that is at least one card that makes great use of all of this extra mana you get with that extra untap step.
True.
Because really this beginning phase, what it is doing, it's empowering instant speed plays. Yes, you're getting an extra card every turn. Already fantastic, already gives you a huge edge in these quote-unquote control matchups.
But look at this hand. Depth Defiler, Volatile Stormbreak, Demon Inferior. This is not an instant speed hand.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is Carlos's deck isn't really an instant speed deck, but as soon as you put that Kami on the board, suddenly at instant speed, you're draining for 2.
Yeah.
And then when you untap, you're draining for 2. And that will end the game.
One.
All right, we've got the Soul Trader back again here.
Yeah, we're done.
And,
Tom says 1, and then, okay, writing on the wall.
All right,
here.
so yeah, the writing on the card here.
Yeah.
Carlos making short work of Tom there, realizing that the game was all said and done. Looks like these players are going to head into game number 3 with full grips, which is what we love to see here. And Tom fetching up a swamp with his landscape. Neither of these players splashing anything, just straight blue-black, but it's always nice to have a little Evolving Wilds type effect in your deck.
Especially important for Carlos, as he does make use of the colorless mana for the kicker on the 3 incredible copies of Depth Defiler that he has available to him. That's another hard one, by the way. Depth Defiler.
Defiler, yeah.
That extra sound is unnecessary.
Yeah.
Depth.
But it's a good thing that you and I are both consummate professionals.
Yes.
And don't have any issues with these sorts of things.
Not ones to stumble over our words.
I've never mispronounced a word in the history of my life, no. Not even once.
And you know about history.
And I do.
And unfortunately, Carlos is missing a 3rd land drop.
That is not ideal for him. As we
Not the
see
best.
The Warren Soul Trader coming in for 1 after this utter insignificance is played. No, and he's got a grip that's ready to party too. As you can see, he's got some good options in it, but they are all a long way away from being cast. Oops, all right.
And here's the great news. Tom's stuck on all swamps, so both players playing with a hand tied behind their back, essentially, here.
And here's Null Drifter. This is a reference to an old card, a fan favorite. Many, many people remember.
Never heard of it.
Mull Drift. Well,
What's
okay,
that
apart
one?
from little baby Gen Z players, here, the Zoomers like Marnie.
Yeah.
Null Drifter, an homage to a fan favorite card in the form of Mull Drifter. It has the same evoke ability for the same cost. But Null Drift is a little bit different, not just because it's a 4/4 with Annihilator 1, but also because it's an on-cast trigger, which means that you can't do things like reanimate it to get the 2 cards. But there are some other nonsense things you can do with casting this card, with dress down and all sorts of other stuff.
You know, who knows if we're going to see any
Who
of that
knows?
later on this week.
Who knows if entire decks built around the card dress down have been registered just to make the judges' lives a living hell for the weekend.
I'm so sorry. I saw that as a swamp, but apparently Tom does have an island sitting there. He is missing a 4th land, but he is not on all swamps. That is an island
I don't want to
hiding
say
there.
I didn't want to say anything.
Oh, you noticed.
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right.
That's why I didn't want to say anything.
yeah, just checking. Okay, great.
All right, Deep Analysis target me, says Tom. Not very often that you want to target someone else, although if you check out the YouTube channel of a friend of the show, Luis Scott Vargas, he did deal lethal damage to someone by targeting them with his own Deep Analysis.
Nice.
It was a very, very sweet game.
That is pretty great.
All right, the Soul Trader here. Just a 1/1, again, because of the utter insignificance. But that's the only creature on the battlefield. Let's tune the narrative a little bit, says Carlos.
Yeah, both players
Finds
really
the
trying to
land.
develop here. And Carlos has found land number 5. So the Depth Defiler in hand, that's online. Tom has also found land number 5 in hand. So the Shogungar in his hand, online. And that means now the players are playing the game. Both decks, as we mentioned in the setup for this match, very 5-drop heavy. So when they are missing those early lands, we are going to see the decks playing at a reduced capacity. In game 1, it didn't matter as much for Tom as he was the aggressor. But here, very much matters considering both players have essentially no threats on the battlefield. And it is quite a bit of back and forth draw go.
We are, as Frank Carsten highlighted during the setup, we are in the trenches.
We sure are.
And Tom White is using, he's timing this spell very well indeed, casting a little draw 3 at instant speed when Carlos is unable to respond. Now, this may mean, I think he's going to have to discard the hand size. I think it's going to take him to 5 cards, is it?
He does have to discard 1, I believe, but it is worth it considering Carlos does have a copy of Ether Spike in his deck. When Carlos uses the opportunity on the end step to exile the Soul Trader using Utter Insignificance's ability, Tom is like, this is an opportunity for me to really mold and shape my hand going for that unfathomable truths.
And this is why you put bad cards like Corrupted Shapeshifter in your deck, Money. It's so you can discard them.
Okay, yeah. Because
very high level stuff.
Well, Magic is a game of decisions, right? And there's so many micro decisions. So anytime you can make a decision easier by looking at your hand and going, oh, that card sucks, and just throw it away, great. You've just shortened that and save some brain power. Less decisions to make.
Always shuffle off a Ponder, because then you don't have to worry about whether you got it right or not. All right, here's Depth Defiler. And we're going to see draw 2 discard now from Carlos, and he's going to discard an Eviscerator's Insight, which is a nice one to put in the bin as it has flashback, of course.
Yep. And I believe he does have 2 copies of Depth Defiler, or had 2 copies of Depth Defiler in hand. So happy to fire 1 off there to try to further mold his hand, hit that 6th land drop, knowing that he still has the next one should Tom go for something like a 5-drop.
And this is going to work out really well for Carlos, who sees a huge sorcery speed 5-drop with no ETB value to be had. This is the perfect target for a Mana War bounce effect.
Now, he does have to be aware of one thing,
Go on.
which is the existence of that island plus the Eldrazi spawn. Tom's deck, I believe, has 2 copies of Ether Spikes. So he has to be aware of the fact that there could be an Ether Spike being represented by Tom here. So if Carlos doesn't have that 7th land, going for the Depth Defiler is not the least risky play, or the most risk-free play, I should say.
Well, this time it's going to resolve here, and it was cast with the kicker. So bounce the Shilgangar and draw 2, discard 1.
Value.
Yeah, well, both players doing very well in this regard in terms of keeping their hands nice and stocked. And Carlos actually discards a swamp. I believe he's got at least 1 more and maybe 2 more lands in hand, so it's not the worst for him. And yes, we're going to see a retrofitted Transmogrant come out as well with a freshly played swamp. So nice battlefield development here for Carlos, but let's not forget, this Shilgangar was not dealt with permanently. It's still an extraordinarily powerful card. And all Tom needs to do now is buy himself enough time to deploy and leverage the power that's in his hand.
Yeah, and Carlos on the other side, this is something that Tom can reasonably expect. His hand is pretty molded after all of the draw effects that have come out over the previous turns. So the ability to have Utter Insignificance or Deem Inferior for this Shilgangar means that Tom is more incentivized to play a more expendable creature first in the Meddler, not only because you don't mind if it dies, but also because that stun effect will make sure that if Carlos has one of these tempo removal spells, you're not taking 7 damage.
So, Depth Defiler with the stun counter on it. Not untapping here, but there is a Depth Defiler that remains unstunned. And Tom, at this stage, oh, he's found the Ether Spike as well. So that could have more serious consequences here. We'll see what Carlos wants to do.
Yeah, you wouldn't normally think that a card like Ether Spike is relevant this late into the game. But because of the nature of this matchup where both players are just trying to throw down giant 5-mana haymakers and use their mana most efficiently every turn, Ether Spike is going to have a target eventually, most likely.
And have a look at this, because we've drawn so many cards this turn. The Deem Inferior comes at the bargain bin basement price of just 1 mana.
Yeah, and that's great because now Carlos can use the extra mana available to him to bring back the Transmogran that he sacked to the Eviscerators Insight, so he's continuing to present pressure.
Utter insignificance here on the 3/5.
16 both of us? Yep. No? No.
Let's see what's next on the docket.
5 cards.
Carlos again, the 4 mana, ready to bring the Transmogrant back. He does have Wither and Bloom and Utter Insignificance in hand.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's going to be unfathomable truths here while the shields are down, while there's no
We've
blue
seen
mana
this
available.
exact line the other way is, you don't mind putting your shields down, because if your opponent's shields are down, cards are power in this matchup.
Yep.
And both players have done a great job of keeping their hands well in stocked and making sure that they have answers for when the other person plays a threat.
And it doesn't look like Carlos actually had to discard there.
I don't believe so.
I don't think he did, because you can see the top card of the graveyard is that draw 3, and then underneath that I think is the Demon Furia.
Yeah, and
That was a great unfathomable.
that was
truth.
great. And now with the Copy Crook in hand, if Tom was to play Shilgengar again, Carlos could say, I also have a Shilgengar.
Cool card.
That's a nice one. I like that one.
All right, Scurrilous Sentry, it's me.
Wow.
It's a little human knight, rogue.
Riley,
Just
the roguish knight.
rifling through papers that he shouldn't be looking at. That's me.
Half in hand, 3? 3, yep.
All right, Shilgengar out.
And that's you,
That's me.
the big demon.
You know what? I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right.
Elder Demon.
Elder Demon,
That's you,
because
man.
of my age.
Yes, indeed.
Because I am truly ancient.
10,000 years old.
Yes.
older than time itself.
After 10,000 years, I finally hit the battlefield again.
Yeah. Oh, it's good to have you back.
Sire
mate.
of Famine. I'm not a very nice guy, am
No,
I?
no, you're really not. Cool wings, though.
Yeah, all right. I'll take those. Ooh, and now with the Hydroelectric Specimen drawn as well, Carlos has a way to make his own Shilgengar and then protect it. And with Utter Insignificance, remove the... Oh, this matchup. I do truly just love how incredible the games in this format can get.
Yeah. Yeah, they can get real silly, and that's what we're seeing here. Copy Crook coming down and copying the Shilgengar, and then this Shilgengar is going to be 1/1'd and then exiled with the Utter Insignificance. So Carlos definitely coming out ahead in that Shilgengar showdown there, I suppose.
Now, he is putting the shields down, not keeping up the Hydroelectric Specimen. So his Shilgengar is vulnerable for the turn. The question is Tom going to go for a sorcery speed way to kill it? We do see that Consuming Corruption, which is an instant, but I believe only 4 swamps currently for Tom. So he may just tap it and go for a slower approach instead.
Yep, Petrifying Meddler. In comes the Sentry. And a Connive trigger, of course. Draw discard. See what Tom wants to throw away here. It's just an island.
Has menace, right?
Has Menace right. So Carlos could go for a double block here with the Defiler, with both Defilers essentially, as a 3/5 and a 1/1 on the currently 3/4. But that Consuming Corruption could deal with the 1/1 and keep his creature alive. Instead, he goes for the double block with the 2 almost insignificant creatures and sacrifices them both for blood tokens.
And I'll tell you what, if we ever get to 6 blood tokens, it's not an easy thing to do, but if we ever get to 6 blood tokens, Shilgengar says you can pay 3 black and sacrifice 6 blood tokens to return each creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter, and also turns them into vampires. That's a big game.
It's a strong ability. It very much is.
Now, are you ever going to get to 6 blood tokens? Well, you know, let's not get caught up on details like that, Marty.
Unlike the truths, it's not unfathomable.
That's in the graveyard.
It's not unfathomable. It's
Yeah.
difficult to fathom.
Yeah.
Certainly, somewhat, you know, your fathoming of that is going to be a little bit.
You mull that over for a
stunted.
bit.
But we'll see. We'll see if we can get there. All right. What's next for Carlos? 3 mana, and we're going to see the Kami come back.
The MVP of Game 2, the Kami. And
I like this card.
I am a big fan. This card does a lot more work than you would expect it to. 5 mana for an activation ability seems like a lot at first, and then you realize just how much card drawing these decks do.
And the other thing about this as well, even if it's just in some random other Black X deck, is that when you play a 1/3 Death Touch, almost necessarily the game slows down.
Yes.
And when you are wanting to slow down the game, when the game is slowing down, you want to have something to do with your mana when you're just saying, okay, go. You're not attacking, I'm not attacking, I'm just going to sit here and block behind my 1/3. Being able to just dump spare mana into an ability like this actually does make a material difference if the game goes on to, turn 11, turn 12.
To where we are currently.
Exactly right,
All right, it's your time, Hydroelectric. Come on out. Get down, Mr. President. And this is really cool because look at this. The Hydroelectric specimen can change the target, and then you sack it to the Shulgengar.
Yeah.
So they don't even gain the life from the corruption.
Oh, well, wait, do they?
Well, if he had seen the line.
Right, okay.
Which,
because that is, that would have been...
I believe that would have been a legal line.
That would have been the better thing to do.
Yes.
I don't think it's not. No, it's not sacrifice a creature at sorcery speed. No.
I don't believe so.
No. Well, sadly, the member of the Secret Service wasn't fed to the Elder
unfortunately.
Demon. No, just died to the consuming corruption.
Yeah, you see Carlos shaking his head. He realized it now.
Yeah.
I'm sure it took just a moment.
Yeah. But look, in fairness to the bloke, he's not sitting there thinking, and now I must remember to sacrifice my my Hydroelectric specimen to the copy crook's ability that it stole from my opponent's cards.
When I've made my blowout play,
Yes.
I shall benefit further,
Yes.
actually. And look, you're 2-0 at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
You're a game away from 3-0 at the Pro Tour. I don't know how much experience Carlos has at the pro level. So certainly there are some nerves at play as well.
You'd think so.
But ultimately, the fact that he recognized the play even after, still a great sign.
All right, we're going to see a Wither and Bloom in addition to the Kami here take out the 3/5. And the Sentry gets in. The Shilgengar was dealt with just before by the Lethal Throwdown.
It was thrown down.
Yeah, thrown right down, which is unusual for a creature with flying. Doesn't really matter too much.
Well, it itself wasn't thrown down so much as a throwdown happened.
But
Are you familiar with the concept of a throwdown in Australia?
What's a throwdown?
It's, like a little roll in the hay, just a little, like...
That kind of throwdown.
Just a little battle, fisticuffs.
I don't think that's what a roll on the hay is.
Oh,
We don't need to get into that too deeply, I don't think.
Okay.
All right.
How many cards were there?
No, I just imagine based off the art, it looks like someone's being thrown off a building.
Is that what it is?
I think so. It looks like someone's being thrown off a skyscraper, in which case, you'd think as a demon with wings, you'd do okay, but...
Yeah, you know what? You might be right.
Look, I don't want to... I'm not out here to have a go at Shilgengar.
I'm not an artist.
I'm not trying to get at Shilgengar. He's got a lot on his plate. He's the Sire of Famine. He's got a lot of business to attend to. If he's thrown off a building and he dies, it's his business.
He does have a lot on his plate. Unlike other people.
No, wait, hang on. If he's the Sire of Famine, does he have nothing on his plate?
No, I believe he's causing the famine.
He's causing the famine.
Yeah.
He's a greedy boy.
He has a lot on his plate.
A lot on his plate in a figurative and a literal sense. All right, well, in any case, both Shilgengars have been roundly and squarely dealt with here. And we move on now to Tom White drawing. And his card, his hand's looking pretty good. Amphibian Downpour joins Kami of Jealous Thirst, a Petrifying Meddler, and an Emrakul's Messenger, which is being deployed here. And at this stage, having a little 2/1 flyer to chip in with some damage is not going to be too bad, in addition to the menace, of course, on the Sentry. So Tom's setting himself up here to push through some damage pretty effectively, Money.
Now, there is one stat that I'm interested in.
Okay.
And we don't have it on the screen. We don't have it anywhere to glean. But what are the library counts in this game of card draws?
Yeah.
Is what?
Oh, and Tom had exactly the same thought at the same time. Let's see if we can...
8, I believe, was what
8.
Tom answered. Now, how is Carlos doing on the other side?
Yeah, both of them have been drawing a lot of cards, but can I tell you something?
Yeah?
Deep analysis.
Oh, yeah? Where does that go?
It can force your opponent to draw 4 cards,
now,
my friends.
how many of the players in this match have a deep analysis?
Both of them do.
I see. Interesting.
It's not often that you deal lethal via deck damage, but it can happen.
It is one of the avenues for lethal.
It is indeed. And both players, I imagine now, should they draw their copies of deep analysis. I don't think we've seen other player cast one this game. Last game we did.
We have.
Oh, we have?
Spells this turn.
No, I don't think we have.
I don't think we have this game. I'm not sure. In any case, this is a really important thing to keep in mind, given that the players are at relatively steady live totals here.
Right. If we haven't seen the players cast deep analysis, then that is essentially a draw 4 to the opponent available for either player.
Yep.
Of course, we don't know what Carlos's library is at, and I only believe I heard Tom say 8, so that may have been wrong as well.
But I'd say they've drawn roughly the same number of cards. Carlos did cast 2 of the Depth Defilers, so that he's up a couple more cards. Oh, and the Eviscerator's inside?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carlos does have Ether Spike available.
Also activated some blood tokens.
Yep.
Yes.
So at the moment, I'm betting that Tom has more cards in library.
That is what I'm afraid of here. All right, those are some hefty frogs now.
Mm-hmm.
Or not so hefty frogs.
Ah, it's an aura, sorry. I thought it was an instant, sorry.
So it looks like the Frog Storm put 2 auras on those creatures there.
Yeah, likely trying to make sure that even if Carlos has that copy of Ether Spike in hand, he's not able to protect the more important creature, which is the Kami in this board stalled state, from whatever.
5, right?
5 cards.
Oh,
5 cards.
boy. All right.
We are live. We are live for the deep analysis kill here.
All right, things just got very real.
I did, yeah, because I said, right? I said
No,
Carlos probably has fewer
that
cards
is what
in
I was
library.
worried about.
And that adds up,
4.
yeah.
All right. Well, all right.
Carlos may die to his opponent targeting him with deep analysis. He's just drawn another card. 4 cards left in library, either 7 or 8 for Tom White.
And we believe one of the cards left in Carlos's library is a deep analysis.
It could be in his hand, and he just doesn't want to cast it, but at the moment, it doesn't look like it is.
Yeah. So I think, from what I can memory rough out about Carlos's deck, I believe his deck currently contains Shadow of the Second Sun, Deep Analysis, Volatile Stormdrake, and Sneaky Stacker.
I don't know how you do it.
think-
That's honestly incredible.
I think that is
I'm not
his
like
forecast.
I know that I'm a bit of a silly goose sometimes, Money, but that is honestly incredible that you can do that quickly.
I believe. I could be wrong. Which are 4 good cards.
Yeah.
But
But there are only 4.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
The good
there
cards
is
isn't a
still
part
4
of
of
that
them.
sentence. The important part of that sentence is there are only 4 of them. All right, in they come. We may see a much more boring end to this game if these creatures are able to get through uncontested. I, for one, am personally hoping for the deep analysis burnout, but
yeah.
you know, can't have everything. Can't always get what you want.
And Tom just connived, so he drew another card there. So I think Tom's library is down
6.
to 6 now.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Escaping Nethergoyf. God, this format, Riley.
And it looks like extra turns have been called.
Oh, great.
Oh, and an Ether Spike! An Ether Spike on turn 10 million! An Ether Spike on turn 100 billion thousand
Pay 4
million!
energy to get through your 2 spawns and 1 land.
And so the Nethergoyf is like, all right,
Back into the Nether with you.
I get, yes, back to the Shadow Realm. I guess I'll come back next turn. All right,
Transmogrant.
Transmogre comes back.
You the MVP.
Okay. Both of these players
All right.
picking at the bones here to get every last scrap of value. Petrifying Metal is still in hand for
That's
Tom
the
White.
shadow.
Put me in, coach.
3 cards.
3 cards remaining. Actual factual dead.
Okay.
Not just like, oh, dead and you're up, blah, 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 whatever, draw step. No, actual just dead to a deep analysis off the top of Tom White's library.
Monty Devoody counter. Sneaky Snacker.
Yeah.
Volatile Stormdrake.
Uh-huh.
Deep Analysis.
All right.
Those are the 3 cards in Carlos's deck.
And playing the Shadow now draws you an extra card.
Oh my god, he has an Eviscerator's Insight. Is he playing it?
These 3. In the deck, these 3. Okay.
Oh my god.
He's playing this. He's going to try. He's a man with a plan. Hang on. Are there 4 cards left in Tom White's library?
I don't know.
Because we could see the deep analysis
Was
play.
the
He's
math
got 6
wrong?
mana. He's got 6 mana.
Is it not the last
If he
card?
draws the deep analysis,
Was that a Depth Defiler? Does he not have the Deep Analysis?
Depth Defiler, he cannot draw 2 cards.
I'll
Yeah.
bounce.
He's going to bounce something. Yes, obviously bounces the Sentry. Can't draw
Play the
because he
Sneaky
dies.
Snacker.
Sneaky Snacker, go. 1 card in library. Are we going to see deep analysis off the top? 4 lethal from Carlos.
Oh, Thompson will be fast.
Very quick 2 mana.
That's a truth. His
It's in the graveyard. It's in the graveyard. Deep Analysis target. You draw 2 cards when you've only got 1 in library. The Deep Analysis lethal here for McWinsource. What a way to win the game. Hiding out there the entire time, Marnie. And that was, as Frank Carson says, we were in the trenches for that one. A war of attrition that Tom White managed to take out. What an incredible game of Magic we just saw.
That game well and truly delivered. That was fantastic Magic.
Really fun, right?
A blast to watch.
And something that is a testament to the strength, the depth, and the interesting, exciting matches that come about because of this Modern Horizons format.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I think the fact that I've been playing a lot of this format, a lot of us have, a lot of people have, and the fact that we can still be a bit surprised, like Frank said, that 2 blue-black decks can show up in the finals of a Pro Tour pod, both looking quite good with a deep enough card pool, and seeing one get the job done here, not only incidentally, but as a strategy from Team Sanctum of All, saying that we think this is the right place to be. Really cool to see.
Yep, seems like the proof's in the pudding, and that pudding is delicious, my friends. We're going to take a quick break. We've got more Magic coming your way. Modern rounds begin after this, so be sure to stick around. Stay tuned as we continue coverage of Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3.
Hi, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Canada.
Indiana.
Brazil. Nebraska.
Florida.
Colorado.
New York.
California.
My favorite part about the MagicCon is just the friendship and fellowship.
The community is absolutely fantastic. Everybody is super friendly.
Diversity.
The art.
It's the competition.
Chaos.
back to Amsterdam in the Netherlands here for continued coverage of Pro Tour Modern Horizons, happening against the backdrop of MagicCon over here in Europe, and it's fantastic to have your company. I thought that that little ad we showed there for MagicCon, Marnie, was something that, you know, we could get behind, encourage people to come along and look fantastic, and then at the end they were like, no one escapes the gathering.
Yeah.
So
maybe a little bit more ominous.
Yeah, a little more ominous. Maybe you have less choice than you thought about attending MagicCon in Vegas. But no, look, if you've never come to one of these events, they are fantastic fun. Of course, between massive, huge tournaments like the Pro Tour, which you can come and you know, see all of your heroes playing in the feature match area, and so much to do with these tournaments. They are a blast. So if you're able to make it to Vegas, it's going to be a time and a half. I'll tell you that. Anyway. We are going to get stuck in with another round of Limited Magic here, and it's my great pleasure to tell you that we've got Nicole Tipple and Jonny Guttman playing against each other here for the trophy of their draft pod. Both these players at 2-0. We saw Nicole do very, very well at the last Pro Tour, top 16 finish for her, and she'll be hoping to do even better this time around, and I'm here for that. On the other side of things, tell us a little bit about Jonny Guttman, because this bloke's a team handshake fella.
He is team handshake fella, and you know, countryman of mine from Canada as well. Jonny is definitely what I would define as one of the up-and-coming School of Magic players. He has a little bit of success. He mostly found success in the online era. That was actually when he started playing Magic in the online era. So when we came back to paper, he was having a little bit of trouble just getting adjusted.
Shuffling cards.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting adjusted to.
What do you mean the cards don't glow when I can cast them? Yeah.
And I think that was something that he definitely suffered from the first few Pro Tours back, but he's now had some time. He has qualified again through the Canadian Regional Championship, and testing again with Team Handshake, he is definitely one of their rising stars, a very strong player in and of himself, and the fact that he's starting out 2-0 gives me a lot of hope for his chances in this event, because skill-wise in Magic, he is fantastic. It's just about getting those paper mechanics down, and then I would say that Jonny's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Sounds like you're quite excited for your fellow Canadian to be doing quite well.
I am.
Even though he's from Toronto?
It's not Montreal.
See, I was going to ask if those divisions sort of break down once you go international. Like, I can't stand Sydney-siders, but here at the Pro Tour, I'll barrack for anyone from Australia.
Look,
but, you know.
All I'm going to say is we don't have anyone from British Columbia here.
So you got to take who you can get.
I got to take what I can get.
All right, I understand. Okay, we're getting underway here with a Mandibular Kite and a Unicorn here, providing a +1/+1 counter with its Mentor ability for our Kanakastani player. And on the other side of things, Nicole Tipple has had her Kami dealt with that Fanged Flames. So we'll see what Nicole's next play is going to be. Another 3-drop by the look of things.
Saving grace for Nicole. Jonny's on 2 lands. He's stuck on 2. So if Nicole is able to stabilize the board and deal with the number of threats that Jonny has presented currently, maybe one more to come. Jonny's deck isn't the lowest to the ground that we have seen after all. Then maybe Nicole is able to do it. Maybe not.
Says Nicole as Flash comes down. This is a card we're going to be seeing a lot of throughout the rest of the day, I imagine. The latest addition to the pantheon of the Therosian Titans. This 6/6 Elder Giant casting Lightning Helix.
Flash is a good one.
Comes into the battlefield or attacks. Way better than I thought.
Yeah.
Way better than I thought.
Really powerful card.
Yeah.
Just adding life gain to that ability makes it so you really are able to use Flash to stabilize games that you otherwise wouldn't
every
be able to.
single 3-drop Elder Giant Titan that gains 3 life with an escape ability has been unbelievably powerful.
Every single one.
Every single one.
Have any of them not been banned?
No, every single one has been banned in multiple
100% ban rate.
Yes.
For 3 mana Elder Titans that
gain 3 life.
Gain 3 life.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a really cool statistic, Riley.
Sort of hard-hitting analysis you get from me.
This is awesome.
For those, of course, who aren't aware, a card called Uro, Titan of Nature's
Never heard
Fury,
of it.
was printed many years ago and was banned in basically every format ever because of how good it was. But here's another powerful 3-drop, not quite on the Uro level, you would have thought, but we've got our Vanishing Whale.
Doesn't fly. importantly.
Importantly, doesn't fly. Made of cloud, doesn't fly.
Unlike all other whales in Magic the Gathering.
Unlike approximately 25% of other whales printed in Magic.
Oh, no.
The Dreamtide whale doesn't fly, but oh boy.
Johnny says, your whale, my whale, and my lethal, I believe, is 11.
Our whale, says Jonny Guttman. And across they come. The Boros Aggression coming through here for the Canadian. A very well-deserved victory for him. Nicole Tipple, unfortunately, her black-white deck, black-blue deck, I should say, showing us some of the pitfalls of this archetype. We saw it do very well in our first draft pod money, but sometimes you just get overrun. The Boros deck has an enormous amount of aggression.
Yeah, sometimes you do just get overrun, but still 2-1, a great start to your Pro Tour. I was talking to Nicole last night at the Players Party, and she was a bit nervous. First Pro Tour, last time, no expectations. She just relaxed and played her games, but now she came that close to top 8 last time, and suddenly adjusted match points are real, and you're thinking about, okay, can I qualify for the World Championship? Can I qualify for the next Pro Tour? A top 8, etc. And the nerves are sitting in. But I think given how she played that draft, how she started off with a 2-1, nothing to worry from her. She's already looking like a veteran that belongs in the feature match area at the Pro Tour, and I can't wait to see how the rest of her tournament goes.
Hoping to see more of her, and of course hoping to see more of Jonny Guttman. A 3-0 finish for him. He'll be very, very happy with that. Another quick break, my friends. We're going to go back to the news desk on the other side of it, and we're going to warm up things properly now for our modern rounds. Don't go anywhere. We're getting stuck into constructed Magic here at Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3 after this.